Natalie, who is 47 years old, slept with her sister Rachel's husband Daniel, who is 26 years old. Now she is receiving tough treatment from others. It was 3 years ago when my husband and I, who are 53 years old, discovered that Rachel had an affair with Natalie's husband Daniel. This made us extremely angry, especially because Natalie had been hurt just a few weeks before. Natalie was going through a really tough time, and things got worse when she discovered that her husband had been cheating on her with her sister. This caused a lot of emotional pain and made her mental health suffer. She started hurting herself and having panic attacks or crying for no reason. Natalie blamed herself for what happened and had to go to therapy to cope with her husband's betrayal. Luckily, the therapy has been helping her a lot and she's feeling better now. But when I talked to Rachel about the problem, she dismissed it by saying she was helping Natalie's husband who was being difficult, and she said it in a really disrespectful way. I was so angry that I wanted to physically harm her. How can she act like that after something so awful happened? I told her clearly that I won't communicate with her until Natalie feels better. She started screaming, but I was over it. After Natalie and Daniel divorced, he and Rachel ended up engaged. My son Josiah told me this and wanted me and my husband to come to the wedding such engagement party. I was appalled that she had the audacity to ask me that kind of question and I declined. I told her that I loved her, but I simply cannot be with her and give her my blessings as she said horrible things. She didn't say sorry. I mentioned to her and Daniel that my husband was in the same situation, and I also told her that if Daniel cheated on me with her, he might cheat on her too. Now in the present, Rachel was outside my door crying and begging me to let her inside. She had tears on her face and was holding a baby and a young child, so I allowed her to come in. She was crying while saying how Daniel had been emotionally and verbally mistreating her and also had a side family. She didn't want to stay in a house with him any longer and wants out. This is a hard situation for me as both daughters aren't doing so well. But as much as I hate to say it, one brought it on herself. Can anyone give help in such a situation? Please help me now. Afford it. Top advice before reading the updates. If Natalie lives with you, don't account. Full stop. Yes, Rachel is in a bad situation now, but that doesn't change the fact that she cheerfully hurt her sister a few years ago without apologizing. You can't even let Rachel stay with you if she apologizes at this point because you wouldn't be able to trust that apology was sincere. Assist her in reaching out to the closest organization for women's shelter and finding a divorce attorney. If you're able to provide further assistance, you can suggest getting her a hotel room for about a month. However, she must establish her own bank account and find a job, if she doesn't have one already, to support herself and her children. Once you've taken these steps, inform Natalie that you're supporting Rachel, but not allowing her to live with you. You don't want to blindside Natalie if she runs into Rachel. If Natalie says, "Why did you send her to a shelter hotel?" stick to spare room without any prompting or requests from me or Rachel. Then you can consider letting her stay for a bit if you want to live with Rachel and her kids. It's okay for you to decide that you don't want them in your house under any circumstances. The without any prompting or requests from you here is really important. Natalie sets out a lot with misguided guilt. She doesn't need to be put in the hard position of deciding whether her sister is going to get help or not from the family. She might feel the need to say yes, even if she doesn't want to. And if she says no when asked, then Rachel could use that as a weapon against her and hurts her emotionally. Her daughter is experiencing the negative outcomes, and if you allow her to stay, the innocent victim daughter will lose her purity. Natalie has been through a lot. The children are being taken away. Rachel can go to a shelter. Although I'm still angry about what Rachel has done to Natalie, I don't want to separate her from the kids right now. And I still want to be a grandparent. That being said, I don't want Natalie to have a relapse. Another thing is Natalie really wanted kids, and I'm not sure how she will react to seeing her nephews. While I don't feel equipped to give you any advice on this, I don't want to say I'm sorry that you're in this position at all. It must be awful. Hope it works out and you can come to a solution. I can't even begin to imagine how hard the situation must be for basically everyone in the story. How does your husband and Natalie feel about her coming back? I think this is one of those situations that no one on the internet can answer. Good luck, Obai. My husband doesn't know what to do either. I love Rachel a lot and it's painful to see her feeling like this. But I don't want to do anything that might make Natalie upset because of the issues her sister caused. However, Rachel's children are innocent, and I still want to be their grandparent. And now for the update. Thank you for the kind advice everyone has given me so far. It means a lot. I haven't been able to post lately because of everything that has been happening with my two girls. So here's an update for those who have asked. I followed your advice and sat Natalie down and talked about Rachel's requests and the possibility of taking her in, or at the very least her children. Natalie looked like she was going to burst into tears and cried, saying we were choosing to help Rachel over her. I realized that I was so caught up in having my happy family and being a grandparent that I was neglecting the person who was hurting the most in this situation. My husband and I apologized for overlooking Natalie's feelings and assured her that Rachel was not going to be staying with us. Our relationship has become difficult recently, and I realized that I was being selfish. Seeing everything in a positive light was causing problems between me and my daughter because Rachel and her children are not living with us. I tried asking my relatives if they could help, but they refused because they were upset about how Rachel treated Natalie during a difficult situation. Most of them were angry at me for suggesting such a thing after what happened and told me that this was retribution for her actions. I then phoned Rachel, telling her that while I care about her, she cannot stay at my place because I need to attend to Natalie's needs and to ensure her mental health doesn't get any worse. My husband and I are going to find her a one-bedroom, one-bathroom apartment, but she will need to work for the rent/food/utilities, etc. And we have a divorce lawyer just in case. Rachel asked why she just can't stay at my place, and I told her that staying with us will just cause Natalie unnecessary stress and could increase her mental health issues. I also told her that she has to act like an adult and get a job. Rachel said that she hasn't had a job in years. She'll need somewhere to get back on her feet rent-free. I told her that I could pay for the first month's rent, but I will not be taking her in. She tried to switch gears and use her kids, but my husband said that he can pay for 2 daycare until she gets a job. She began yelling and using mean words toward us and Natalie. Rachel told Natalie to stop being self-centered and mentioned that she had more important things to worry about. My husband got angry and shouted back, saying that if she had supported her sister instead of being intimate with her husband, this situation could have been avoided. He also emphasized that she is responsible for her own actions. I honestly don't know where I went wrong in raising Rachel for her to act and say words like this. It's very disappointing. It sounds like Rachel's way overdue for a reality check. Daughter, or not helping her with the apartment and daycare until she gets a job is the best way to help her be more independent, as it sounds like she's codependent to some degree. One thing is that you need to give her a deadline on getting a job so that she doesn't take advantage of the help. Yes, occupation landlord directly for 1 month's rent and pays daycare directly for 1 month's child care. Then make it clear to Rachel that that's all the help she's getting. Yeah, and I only suggest that to Opie because of the grandchild. If Rachel keeps using Opie or anyone else for money without feeling sorry or changing her ways, she doesn't deserve any help. Opie should probably allow her to face the consequences of her actions so she can learn from her mistakes. How is Rachel entitled? She really sounds like a human piece of garbage, so she treats everyone like dirt and still expects people to bend over backwards to take care of her. Nice. If it wasn't for the grandkids, I would say cut her out of your life and face the consequences of her actions. Even then, you could offer to take the grandkids in, but make her be on her own. Yep. But even after her horrible response at the end, they will be manipulated by her having kids, and still will be subsidizing Rachel's existence, probably for way longer than just 1 month. The fact that Op even entertained the idea of letting Rachel crash Natalie's space tells me Rachel is going to have them by the strings for quite a while. To those who support Rachel in previous and current posts, I don't understand why you are defending her. Can't you see that favoritism towards Rachel has made her entitled? The person who posted this is suggesting that Natalie needs to move on, but I disagree with that. It feels like they have portrayed Rachel in a much better light than she actually is. It's because it's been 3 years. You'd benefit from some life experience. Golden child syndrome. Thank God her husband and relatives spoke up on Natalie's behalf, because Opie certainly was ignoring all of us who said to cut her off. Literally, my comments on her last update was like, Natalie is going to be upset and not trust you if you even suggest Rachel moving in. This woman should be advised to go back home as a possible solution. Opie should reflect on their mistakes by looking in the mirror. Oh my goodness, now let me tell you the final story. My mom is urging me and my siblings to pardon our older brother for taking away our other brother's girlfriend. In my family we have James, who is the oldest and 28 years old. We also have my older sister, who is 25. When I was growing up, my parents always told us to stick together even after they were no longer around. If one of us ever told on a sibling, we would all get punished. This made us become very close, and we learned the importance of being loyal to one another. I have an older brother named Henry who is 24, and I'm the youngest sibling at 21, and I'm a girl. A few years ago, Henry began dating this girl who seemed like a soulmate. They seemed like they'd known each other for years, and it was so cute. He proposed to her, and we were all excited because she was going to be the first sibling to get married. About a year into the proposal, Henry confided in me. We'd always been closest to each other than the other siblings. This is James, and it seemed like he was very close to his fiancée. He felt terrible for not trusting her and tried his hardest to reject the idea that his own brother would betray him like that after mentioning it. Whenever she was around his family, I started noticing their behaviors, like flirtatious looks and friendly conversations that were more than just friendly. Even their hugs seemed extremely intimate. I tried to chalk it up as me being paranoid and seeing it only because it was mentioned. Well, things finally hit the fan when she dumped Henry and confessed her love for James and admitted that she'd been cheating on him and that they were in love. She moved out of his house and moved in with James. This was about 1.5 years ago, and they are now engaged. Everything happened that night. Henry came to my house looking completely devastated. He had been crying a lot and said some really sad things. He talked about feeling useless, never being as good as his brother James, and how the world would carry on without him. Just to give some background, James was the typical popular jock. His older brother, who was good-looking, had lots of girls and did well in school. Henry always felt like he had to compete with him to get the same attention, and if I were girls. So it received our own separate attention. He works out a lot and is in great shape, is tall and works very hard to subconsciously beat him. To see this big tough guy break down like that broke my heart, and we cried together and talked a lot. We were surprised when our friend cooked our favorite meal for us. The next day, I went to my ex's house and yelled at him while he was still sleeping. We argued and I left before he could respond. Our parents are divorced now and our dad has been talking to James. He's a very traditional man and puts emphasis on loyalty and brotherly love. He was absolutely furious, and apparently he called James and screamed at him. Neither me nor my father and siblings have been in contact with James. Henry has declined, and if James's attempts to apologize and reconcile, our mother, though, has forgiven him due to him being mama's boy and also being the firstborn son. She actively hangs out with him and urges me and Aunt forgive him and start a relationship with them, which we adamantly refuse. She's also attempted to trick Henry. It does seem like this also hurts Henry, and he no longer contacts our mom towards me. Now James and Henry's ex are engaged and the wedding is set. He's invited all of his siblings and our dad, but we all refuse. Our mom is pleading with us in a very kind manner to be there for him. She wants Henry to move on and overcome his difficulties. She misses her own family and desires a normal family life. I suggested to her that James and his new wife could become her new source of happiness. Is it wrong for me to still feel angry towards James? Is it any of my business? Sometimes I feel like it isn't, but seeing Henry absolutely broken has burned into my brain, and any thoughts of James at a soon-to-be wife fills me with anger now for the top comments. No, you're fantastic for sticking by your brother. What your other brother did is basically one of the worst things you can do to a sibling. He always had to compete with his older brother, and you have been great for supporting him. You, your sister and father are amazing for that. Often family members just forgive and forget and then blame the sibling who was hurt. It's heartbreaking to think about how Henry must feel. Thank you for sticking by him. The deep yawning pit that opened up in his chest when his brother and fiancé did that to him. And again, every time his mother chooses James, he must hurt so badly. And make no mistake, what James did is unforgivable. And I wonder what try to say any different about this situation is sending a clear signal to look how little they value him. I'm so happy for Henry to have at least some family, his sisters and his father, who still love and care for him. If it were me and my family, all guts buddy-buddy with my good backs, and try to get me to forgive and be one big happy family again, I think I would cut ties with a lot of them. I want to distance myself from my family, cut off all contact, and start a new life in another state. And if I had to choose between Henry and James, I'd easily pick Henry because James has proven that he would betray me for personal gain and expect me to move on. Who would want that in their life? No one owes James a happy wedding day. Let James enjoy his new family with a girl and her relatives because it turned his back on the family that raised him the day he chose the girl over his brother. Screw that. Don't give your loyalty to someone that isn't capable of giving it in return. It's one thing if Henry's fiancée left him and later got together with James, but she was cheating on him while they were still together. James knew this was a massive betrayal and didn't care. He chose himself over the rest of the family, frankly, but tried to force the family back together. Your mother is betraying the family as well, putting her own desire to have a happy family over anyone else's feelings. James escaped your dishonesty by his own efforts. If you allow him back in, the only thing you'll learn is that loyalty only applies to him, and he doesn't have to do anything in return. Inform your mother that I might not hold it against her for staying in touch with James, but I would. If she continues to try and make us all ignore what happened, she'll definitely lose the rest of us. If I were in your shoes, the next time I talked to James would be at someone's funeral, and I would never say a single word of his new girl ever again. I don't particularly or center for forgiving him. She's his mother, carried him for 9 months and birthed him. So I don't see it as weird for her to forgive him. However, I do think it's really awful for him to expect us to forgive him and pressure Henry to talk to him before he's ready. It's just really shocking. My fiancé is a truly terrible person, and James is a horrible brother. Mom, what is going on with her? You, your sister, and your dad, on the other hand, demonstrate true family loyalty and how families should treat each other. Keep doing exactly what you're doing, and don't give the selfish, cruel, entitled people an inch. Think about how they treat you, given the same circumstances. Would you want them to continue to stand by you? Of course, you should keep doing what you're doing because you have it right, thank God, as you guys cut them out. None of them value loyalty and family. You have your dad and Henry. If you can't trust your family, then who else can you count on? This is what I try to explain to my mom, especially because this is what they taught us.